Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Simpson. I'm the race director for the Lost Lake Run. And in this video, I'm going to go over the COVID-19 plan for the Lost Lake Run 2021. So give me a moment and I'm going to share my screen. All right. There we go. So before I get started, I'd like to kind of go over how we got to 2021. It actually started back in 2019. The 2019 Lost Lake Run was actually canceled, as many of the folks that are watching this probably know, because there was extensive fires in the Kenai Peninsula area that created an air quality index that was far too high for us to have any kind of event. And at the same time, the Kenai Lake, which is where the Primrose Campground abuts, the south end of the Kenai Lake is where the Primrose Campground is located. And that's also where we start our race in that parking lot. That parking lot was filled with water, and we had about 2 feet of water where everybody would have to start the race. So it was canceled in 2019 because of fire and flood. At that point, we spent quite a bit of time talking to participants, fundraisers, teams, legends, and it was decided to cancel the event. And we were going to carry forward early admission for everybody who was registered in 2019 to 2020 and offer a 20% discount. And then if anybody did not want to participate in 2020, then we would make those slots available with a lottery, and those lottery positions would be available at no discount. So then 2020 came along and COVID-19 struck. So here, instead of canceling the Lost Lake Run, we made the decision, and when I say we, I'm talking about the Lost Lake Run board. We decided to postpone the 2020 Lost Lake Run to 2021. So everybody who was registered in 2020 would now registered in 2021, and we need you to re-register to confirm your spot. So if you haven't received an email, and I've sent emails to all the participants twice, you should contact me and let me know what happened so I can trace it back. But the re-registration in March of 2021 is done to indicate to us that indeed you will be participating. And then if there are any spots available after that, we'll open those up for a lottery. There was, in place of the 2020 Lost Lake Run, a virtual Lost Lake Run. Now, this was a separate event from the in-person race. And when we constructed this, we wanted to make sure everybody understood that. And there's another video that's available. There's a link on the website that explains the virtual Lost Lake Run. But this separate event was separate from what I'm going to call the in-person race, the one that we're talking about today. Now, finally, 2021, COVID is still with us, but with vaccinations occurring, we're hoping that this will be the last year that we really have to think about restrictions on our activities based on the COVID pandemic. We are asking everybody from 2020 that was registered to re-register in March. Now, I'm filming this on March 29th, so there's really 2 days left. But as I mentioned earlier, I've sent emails to all of those that were registered, and I did it twice, once 3 weeks ago and once less than a week ago. So I'm assuming everybody's received those emails and that they know that they need to register. We also are asking people to re-register because, as you'll see coming up, we've had to change the way in which we are starting the race. And we need to get estimated finish times. And that's something we did not have in any of our earlier registrations. We also wanted to update the terms and conditions to reflect what's happening with COVID. And then finally, as I said, if there's anybody who's not going to be participating or decided not to carry forward their registration from 2020 to 2021, then we will be opening those up for the lottery. So if there is a lottery, we will make the announcement of how many slots are available on April 1st. And the purchase of lottery, quote unquote, tickets will be for 2 or 3 days. Usually we close that around the 3rd. So it gives April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 3 full days to do that. And then on April 4th, we will close down the lottery and use those lottery picks to select those people that will be in the race. And it's done by random drawing. So I'd like to go over now some of the things that are going to be different in 2021 as part of our COVID plan, and things that we will expect to come back as part of our regular activities in 2022. And we'll start with the very first thing is the spaghetti. Now, traditionally, on the evening before the Lost Lake Run, on Friday evening, usually at a place nearby to Seward, in this case, Resurrection Roadhouse has been kind enough to sponsor both a spaghetti feed and a bib pickup by their restaurant. We've been able to offer spaghetti as a carb load and pick up your bib the night before. And now we are not going to be able to do that. So that has been, I'm calling it postponed or canceled. As I'll talk about at the very end, if things change, if there is for some reason a change because COVID restrictions have lightened, because COVID restrictions could go either way. They could get better or they could get worse. But let's say that they get better. These are the kinds of events and activities that are on race day or prior to race day that we want to bring back. So at this point, we're planning for the worst, but really hoping for the best. So although it's not in 2021, we fully expect that everybody will be immunized and 2022 will be back to normal. Now, in the past, the bib pickup has been done either at the Resurrection Roadhouse during the spaghetti feed, which now has been canceled. And also the morning of the race, you could pick up your bib at the starting line at the Primrose Campground. But now we're trying to reduce the congestion and aggregation of people to the greatest extent possible. So we are moving bib pickup to the parking area. In the past, the parking area, at least in the past couple of years, has been at the Seward High School. We don't know yet if it will still be at the Seward High School. We hope so, but we have not secured a permit yet. So it could be at some other location in Seward. So at this point, I'm saying the bib pickup will be in the Seward parking area, and that actual specific area will be determined over the next few months between now and August. This is being filmed, of course, in March. So we've got 5-6 months between here and race day. The bib pickup will be at the Seward parking area. This way we can create separations in the line. Masks will be required on the bus. And the photo ID, which we have historically always requested, and there's 2 reasons we've asked for photo ID. One is we do have a timed race, and we want to make sure that the person that is bibbed and running is the person they say they are. And the second reason is we have historically offered beer to the participants at the end of the race. Well, if you're not 21, you're not eligible to drink alcohol. And so we would need to screen for those. So the combination of those 2 things, we've always asked for photo ID to be presented when you pick up your bib. And we've been pretty specific about that. This year, that will be at the discretion of the volunteers. So if there's a pretty blonde woman that walks up and says, "Hi, my name's Patrick," I think it's up to the volunteer to decide whether or not they'd like to see ID for that young lady. So there may be some things where the volunteers at their discretion can ask for photo ID. You can always go to your vehicle, get the ID, come back, show it, put it back in your vehicle, and then get on the bus. But at this point, we still want to make sure that the person that holds the bib is the person that bought the bib. The other thing is, in the past, we've asked volunteers to sign the book to indicate that they've received their bib. And this year we're going to have not volunteers, we've asked the participants to sign the book to indicate they've had their bib. This year, we're going to have the volunteers do it. So the volunteers will do that. And that allows us to not have to sanitize pins or worry about the transmission from pins. It's just one less contact point we have to concern ourselves with. Now, from the busing to the start, what we're going to do is we're going to load these buses out in this Seward parking lot. And we're going to run these buses from 6:30 in the morning until 11:10, approximately 4.5 hours. And the plan is that we'll have 7 total buses. We'll each run approximately 5 minutes apart. And each of them will get 5 round trips. Let's call that a wave, similar to how you have a wave start. And these 5 waves will be filled with 24 people per bus. And we will only put 1 person per seat on the bus. Now, if you've got people in your bubble, for example, if you and your wife, I mean, obviously they're part of your bubble, are on the bus together, we will still limit it to 24, but you could sit next to each other. We just ask that we are being sensitive to everybody on the bus regarding separation and distancing. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to get these things called buffs, these masks. It's like a gaiter, and it can pull up over your face. It can pull up into a headband. They're used very commonly by the ski community in the winters because it keeps your face warm. And we're going to have antiseptic wipes. So when you pick up your bib, you'll also get a buff. And we're asking you, if you don't want to use a mask, at least use the buff to cover your face. So we will be providing masks for all the participants in the race. Oh, by the way, if you're looking for a sponsorship opportunity, this would be a great opportunity for you if your company would like to help us purchase all those buffs, because it's an additional cost this year, and one that if you're up for it, we'd love to have your logo on there for a sponsorship opportunity. Finally, volunteers are going to check the temperature of participants. We say as they board the bus. This may be also as they get the bib. So it either be during the bib pickup or the bus. We one or the other, but we will be checking temperatures as well. Now, if we did the math right, and by we I mean me, and we use 7 buses and fill each to half capacity, that's 24 people, not including the driver, per trip, 5 minutes apart, we will be able to get all 777 participants. That is the maximum number we're allowed on the trail by our U.S. Forest Service permit by 10:40 a.m.-ish. For those that are wondering what an ish is, it's plus or minus 15 minutes. We will assign runners to the waves. So instead of having a long line of people show up and it's first come, first serve, what we want to do, and why we're asking for your estimated finish time, is we will assign participants to one of those 5 slots, waves, when the bus will leave. So we'll say you're in wave 2 or you're in wave 4, and we will make efforts to bring together teams, the people with the same speed. So fast runners would be together, walkers would be together. So we're going to make the effort to try to make sure everybody kind of gets aggregated together, and it'll be a bit of a challenge, but I think we can do this, so that you would then show up in the parking lot, and then when your slot is available, or you can show up during your slot, you would get on the bus. Now, we'd ask that you don't wait till the end of the time period, because obviously if we're not able to fill the buses right away and we have to hold them, everything gets backed up. So I know things happen, life happens, it's hard, but if you could plan ahead as best as possible to get there as early, like at the start of the wave, that would be greatly appreciated, because it makes everything else kind of fall in place much better. And then we will give each passenger, or we will have on the seats, antiseptic wipes, so that you can wipe the seat either before or after or both on the bus. Now, in the past, we used Skinny Raven for our timing. Before that, we used Up and Running. Before that, we used Michael Freeze. Not that the history is that important. but right now we're using Skinny Raven's timing team. And we had a great webinar last year on the timing process with Skinny Raven. So if you're interested, please look that up in our video section. But wave starts are not a problem. So what will happen is there'll be two teams. There'll be one at the start, which will be at Primrose, and there'll be one at the finish, which is at Bear Creek Fire Station. And unlike in the past, what happened in the past was we would have the same timing team would be at the start. Everybody would run across the mats. It would be a mat start. And what that means is on your bib, there'll be an RFID tagger or the equivalent. And when you run across the mat, it signals to the system, okay, you've passed that mat, you've passed that point. And then when you get to the finish line, you repeat that process by going across the mat, and it registers your finish time. Well, they were able to, because we had a start and a finish that were far enough apart in time that they could pack everything up from the starting line, head over and set everything up at the finish line, and then record the finishes. Now, because we're stretching everybody out at the start, we're literally starting people over a 4.5 hour period so that we have separation on the trail between people. We will need to have two teams, one at the start and one at the finish. So anyway, this is a change, but regardless, your time will be accurate. And what will happen is when you go across the start, those times will be bundled up and shipped up to the cloud, which is this mysterious place where all digital things live, and then pulled out of the cloud down at the finish line, where they will be used as part of the computation for the finish times. And then there'll be a QRS code, which will be on little signs spread throughout the finish area. I also will send this out by email and Facebook prior to the race. That will be provided by Skinny Raven, so you can get updates just by flashing this QRS code, and it'll tell you what your time was. Runners' bags. Traditionally in the past, at the starting line, we would have at the backside of the starting area at the Primrose Campground, a couple tables where you could go and get a white kitchen trash bag, put your name on it. So you put your last name, comma, first initial, and then your bib number, and you put your stuff in the bag, tie it up, and then you throw it in a truck. And then we take that truck to the finish line, and our volunteers go through and sort those bags by last name. And then you would show up and pick up your bag. So we will continue doing this because of the nature of this race. It's very hard to imagine how runners could stay warm, even with the immediate start, without having the ability to bundle up, get to the beginning, to the starting line, and then store a few things in the bags and then get up the trail. So in this case, that we will be sanitizing markers because we are still going to be, well, we aren't certain. It might be that we would have a volunteer write the last name, comma, first initial, and bib number on the bag for you. Then we would not have to sanitize markers, or alternatively, we just have a gob of markers and we're constantly resanitizing those, and then you can do the marking. So either way, this will be how we will handle runners' bags. And of course, everybody's going to be masked, and volunteers will be masked and gloved in this area. When we get to the finish line, in the past, it's been very obvious how we lined up the bags by last name. We have an area where we put labels up during the sort process, and as they come off the truck, you know, A, B, C, and so on. And it hasn't been a problem if someone would run up and grab their bag. This year, we're going to have to ask people not to do that. Again, we're trying to eliminate contact points. So we will have a masked and gloved volunteer that will retrieve your bag for you, your bag, and that way we're minimizing the opportunity for contact. So at the starting line, we would bring buses out and we would do two starts. We would do a start at 8 o'clock and a start at 10 o'clock. And first bus would show up between 6:30 and 7, and then buses would continue to show up, and the walkers would leave the starting gate at 8 a.m. and the runners at 10. So one of the things we would do is, in addition to having runners bags, we'd also have coffee available there. It's nice to have something hot and warm that, especially in some of those mornings, it's pretty chilly. And we would, and recently have had also a DJ out there. So there's some music and it's a little festive and it's kind of nice. And then the DJ returns to the finish line, as does the timing team, and continues playing music there for the remainder of the day. But unfortunately, those are not going to happen this year. So as I mentioned earlier, if it's possible, we would like to bring these kinds of activities back, especially if COVID lightens up. But in the absence of that, let's plan for the worst and hope for the best. Again, this is our last year where we think we're going to have these kinds of restrictions, and then we'll be back to normal, if you will, or at least our new normal. So the idea here is that a runner will come off the bus, they'll go straight to runner's bags, they will take their, whatever they're going to leave behind, put it in the runner's bags, and then get right onto the course by going across the starting mat and up onto the course. And that will hopefully stretch everybody out so that there's very little overlap of people and congestion on the trail, and eliminates the potential for transmission. Now, these wave starts, I mentioned, are mat starts and finishes, and they'll be stretched out over 4.5 hours. And if we have a bus load of 24, if a bus load of 24 comes into the start and drops and then immediately goes out, and we leave in waves like this, we will be able to stretch everybody out along that trail in such a way that we do not believe anybody would necessarily have to contact. Now, it doesn't mean you can't pass people and all those other things, and that will happen. We do ask that if you're on the trail and you're passing somebody, that you would pull your mask up. Remember, we're going to be giving you these bibs, or not bibs, but these gaiters. You can pull that mask over as you pass, and then you can pull it down when you're past them. So it's just another little added level of security to try to reduce any potential impact that if a potential spread was there. So we're doing everything we possibly can to prevent that. Now, at the top of the trail, traditionally, we've had the Boy Scouts Troop 26 from Anchorage, and recently the troop from Seward. They would go up the night before, they would camp out at the top of the trail. There's a bridge there. They would camp near the bridge, and then they would make water with these water makers. They're big filtration systems. I say big, there's several gallons. And then they would dispense water at the top. So they would either do that by providing water so you could refill your water bottle, or they would have Dixie cups and they could distribute those. And then we also made Gatorade at the top. So we would give them Gatorade and they could mix Gatorade. This year, we won't be able to provide that. But in my early discussions with the Boy Scout troop, who are fully on board for this year, we've learned that now they're doing joint scouting activities with a Girl Scout troop as well. So this year could be the very first year that both the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts will be at the top of the trail. So that's kind of exciting. It's kind of a new groundbreaking situation. They will have a modest amount of water that they will make. This is emergency water. So if someone gets up there and they're really dehydrated and they need water, obviously we're going to have some water there available. But we're asking that you try to bring enough for your entire trip, your entire course, so that you wouldn't expect to have water at the top. And again, in 2022, we hope that this is back to where we were before. One last piece is that the troops will be gloved and masked when handling the water, obviously. We have the Anchorage Nordic Ski Patrol providing trail safety, and they will be asking people to cover their face when passing if they see that. There'll be some signs along the trail reminding folks to be 6 feet apart. But other than that, these folks will be there for your safety. So they're going to be stretched out in both directions from the top of the trail going down toward the trailhead at Lost Lake and back towards Primrose. And then we also have a final group of 2 that what we call the sweepers, and they will follow everybody. They'll be the last 2 people on the course, and they will follow everybody going up. And while they do, they pick up, if anybody drops something, they grab that, and then they pick up the trail markers. If you are planning to be a trail spectator, and in the past, there's been people that have gone up ahead of the runners and camped out in certain locations, and then they would cheer people on as they go. And it sounds like a great day, quite honestly. The weather's usually pretty good. Anyway, we're just asking that you, if you're a trail spectator, you honor that 6-foot separation and also use masks. At the very bottom, this is the medical tent that's located at Bingman's garage at the finish line. So literally as you go across the finish line to your immediate left, there's a medical tent there. Stephanie Kaiser is an RN from Providence that has led a medical team there. She brings in 2 or 3 folks with her, and then they provide some medical services as needed, sort of like a triage in case somebody's not feeling well, or there's a variety of things. Anyway, they will return like everyone else. Every volunteer is going to be masked and gloved. So they will adhere to those, of course, as medical professionals. And they will be available this year as well. Everybody at the finish line is going to be asked to mask up. Now, I know there's some people in your bubble that you're comfortable with, but we're not worried about them. We're worried about people outside your bubble or incidental contact. So we're just asking everybody at the finish line, all the participants, to wear a mask. This is really where we're likely to see the most congestion, the most number of people aggregating together. And for that reason, we're really asking people to move quickly through the t-shirt pickup, barbecue, which I'll get to in a second. We have hydration, water bottles available. Get your runner bag and then get back onto a bus and back to the Seward parking area. Now, in the past, we have really enjoyed the ability to have, if you will, kind of a festive atmosphere after the race. We like when people come in the finish line, we've got beer and a barbecue and a DJ, and people sit and enjoy the time, and they talk about the race, and they wait for all their friends to come in. And it's a big part of why that day is so much fun. And unfortunately, because of the situation with COVID, we're going to ask that people don't do that. Again, if there's a change in COVID restrictions and they're reduced, this would certainly be one of those areas we would love to see a reduction in, or a change in this year's policy. Of course, after this year, we want to go back to where we were before, which is let's really enjoy the day, finish the race, and have a beer, enjoy the sun, have a barbecue, have a hamburger or a chicken burger or a veggie burger off of the barbecue. Thank you, NSTAR, for donating the barbecue's use. Instead, this year, we're going to still provide food, but it'll be in the form of sandwich and chips. And we're going to ask that you pick that up with some water and head back to your car. So the beer will not be offered in 2021. And we are really looking forward to returning that in 2022. Then the barbecue will be replaced with a takeaway meal. Right now we're looking at a sandwich and chips. These will all be prepackaged sandwiches so that we can have them each contained, and then they'll be in coolers. And we'll have volunteers masked and gloved handing sandwiches out with chips, and then there'll be bottles of water everywhere. At the t-shirt pickup, the volunteers, like they did when you got your bib, will initial the race book, indicate that you picked up your t-shirt. This eliminates the need for sanitizing pins. I'll say this, if in 2019 we had 3 different pickups for t-shirts, and we didn't, because we didn't have the race that year, we made an effort to distribute t-shirts. We did one in Seward, one in Kenai, and one in Anchorage. But if you missed those and you still didn't get your 2019 t-shirt, we know who you are, we still have those books. Please ask to get your shirt in 2021. We'll have that shirt waiting for you with your 2020 shirt when you finish. So you can get your 19 shirt if you didn't. You certainly go pick up your 2021 shirt when you finish. There was no 2020 shirt for the Lost Lake Run, but there was one for the virtual Lost Lake Run. Those were all mailed out last year. In terms of the buses, back to the Seward parking lot, we'll have 2 buses in rotation. So as soon as one bus gets 24 people on it, we'll set it free, and then the next bus will come in, and we hope to just keep that rotating throughout the day. Like we did when we did the start, we'll have antiseptic wipes and ask people on board to wipe their seats, and masks will be required on the bus. I think we said this. Volunteers initialize the race book. This is duplicated. Okay, awards. So in the past, we've had an award ceremony. Usually starts around 2:30. Sometimes it goes closer to 3. It just depends on when some of the we try to fill up the top 3 in each of the age groups. And once those are full, then we're fairly confident we've got most everybody, and we can start handing out awards. This year, that will be replaced with a Zoom event. And so it'll be done online after the fact. And then we'll have to mail out those awards. Of course, I'm not looking forward to that because there's 48 for the top 3 and then 3 for the winners. And anyway, it's a lot of mail. But we'll do that because we really want to make sure we don't have this grouping of people. It'll be mugs and gift cards for the top 3 in each gauge group, awards for the top 3 male and female runners. And then our top fundraisers will receive Marsha Vincent Awards. Those are individual fundraisers and teams. And then there's a team award for the open and the women's. And we renamed the open winners award, it's a cup, to the Armentrout Cups, named after Jenny Armentrout, one of our founding board members who left us in 2020. Let me go through where you can find some additional information. Everything I've told you here is written up in a COVID plan. That COVID plan can be found on the website. So I've got a paste of the Lost Lake Run website here. If you literally click on registration, the word registration, don't do the drop-down menu, but just click on that, you'll get to this page. And then there's 3 documents under here. And the one that you want to pay attention to if you're interested in the COVID plan is the 2021 Lost Lake Run COVID plan. I also have the terms and conditions for 2021 for the race itself. And then if you're having trouble with registration, step-by-step registration instructions. And there's also another video I filmed yesterday that talks about registration for the Lost Lake Run, in particular, the 3 different types of registrations for participants, fundraisers, and team members. And there, I went through those step-by-step registration instructions in that video. So that might be another place for you to look. So as we look forward, as I mentioned several times throughout this presentation, if the COVID restrictions are revised, and let's say best case, they're revised in a reduced capacity, then we can add in some of these activities. Worst case, I said work case, I meant worst case. We should stop thinking that way. We're not even thinking about worst case, just best case. Last year we had the virtual Lost Lake Run. I've had several people ask me if we were going to do a virtual Lost Lake Run this year. Because it's a permitted run, we're still working through and exploring options. So at this point, I will give updates later in the year. But at this point, we don't know if there will be or there won't be. We're just looking at it. So we certainly would like to be able to offer both, but we need to do that within the scope of the existing permits. And we have to work through some of that with the Forest Service. If you have questions, you can reach me by cell. Please call during business hours if you would. That number is 907-444-5860. You can also reach me on email, lostlakerun@gmail.com. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great day.